April 5th in history. In 1621, Plymouth colony clung to life on a cold New England shore. Half the pilgrims had perished that brutal winter, yet the survivors refused to abandon their fragile new home. On April 5th, the Mayflower weighed anchor and turned east toward England, and not one colonist chose to leave. They watched in silence as the ship that had brought them dissolved into the Atlantic horizon. That quiet act of defiance echoed across history. Plymouth colony became the foundation of a nation, and the Pilgrims' resolve shaped the American story of perseverance against impossible odds. In 1722, Dutch Admiral Jacob Roggeveen sailed the remote South Pacific, commanding 3 vessels far beyond known charts, searching for a legendary southern continent. On Easter Sunday, a volcanic island emerged from the mist. Along its silent shore stood dozens of colossal stone figures, the moai staring inland, carved by the Rapa Nui people. Easter Island became one of history's great mysteries. The moai and the Rapa Nui's isolated civilization continue to inspire scientific debate and wonder worldwide today. In 1792, the young United States was still defining the boundaries of its new government. Congress had passed a bill to reapportion House seats among the states. President Washington rejected the bill, declaring it unconstitutional. With a single written message to Congress, he exercised the presidential veto for the very first time in American history. That veto established the executive branch as a true check on Congress. Every presidential veto since, over 2,500 of them, traces its precedent to that single act. In 1794, Paris was gripped by the Reign of Terror. Revolutionary tribunals sentenced thousands to death as radical factions competed for control of France. On April 5th, Georges Danton, once the revolution's thunderous voice, was led to the guillotine. Robespierre's committee had turned against its own founder. Danton's death signaled the terror's unraveling. Within months, Robespierre himself was guillotined. Revolutions, he proved, devour their own children. In 1887, a young deaf-blind girl named Helen Keller lived in darkness and silence in Tuscumbia, Alabama, unable to communicate with the world around her. At a water pump in the yard, teacher Anne Sullivan placed Helen's hand under the flowing water and spelled WATER into her palm, and Helen understood. That single word unlocked language for Helen Keller. She went on to become a celebrated author, activist, and global symbol of human potential against all odds. In 1933, America was gripped by the Great Depression. Banks had collapsed, unemployment soared, and citizens hoarded gold, draining the nation's reserves. On April 5th, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102, commanding all Americans to surrender their gold to the Federal Reserve, paid out at $20.67 per ounce. The order broke the gold standard's grip, freeing the government to expand the money supply and fund recovery, reshaping American monetary policy forever. In 1942, Easter Sunday brought terror to Colombo, Ceylon. Admiral Nagumo's powerful Japanese carrier strike force had sailed deep into the Indian Ocean, threatening Britain's grip on Asia. 125 Japanese aircraft struck Colombo. Simultaneously, dive bombers found HMS Dorsetshire and Cornwall at sea, sinking both cruisers within minutes in a devastating display of naval air power. The raid shocked Britain, proving Japan could dominate the Indian Ocean. It forced the Royal Navy to withdraw westward, reshaping the entire Allied strategy in Asia. In 1955, Britain stood at a crossroads. 80-year-old Winston Churchill, the lion of the wartime era, led the nation through a fragile post-war peace. On April 5th, Churchill handed his resignation to Queen Elizabeth II at Buckingham Palace, passing power to Anthony Eden, closing his final premiership. Churchill's resignation closed one of history's most consequential careers. His wartime resolve had saved democracy, leaving a legacy that still defines British national identity. In 1973, humanity set its sights on the outer solar system. At Cape Canaveral, engineers prepared Pioneer 11 for a journey no spacecraft had attempted. On April 5th, Pioneer 11 roared into the sky. In 1979, it became the first craft to reach Saturn, capturing stunning close-up views of its iconic rings. Pioneer 11 then sailed beyond the solar system entirely, one of only 5 human-made objects ever to do so, a permanent ambassador drifting through interstellar space. In 2010, deep beneath the mountains of West Virginia, over 1,000 miners worked the Upper Big Branch coal mine, one of the largest in Appalachia. On April 5th, a massive methane gas explosion tore through the mine, killing 29 of 31 miners underground, the deadliest American coal disaster in 40 years. Investigations exposed years of ignored safety violations at Massey Energy, leading to criminal charges and landmark reforms protecting American mine workers. In 2010, Space Shuttle Discovery stood ready at Kennedy Space Center, poised for one of NASA's most ambitious resupply missions to the International Space Station. On April 5th, Discovery roared into orbit, carrying over 27,000 pounds of supplies, the largest single cargo delivery ever flown to the space station. The 15-day STS-131 mission helped transform the station into a fully equipped research outpost, advancing humanity's capacity for long-duration science in space.